Okay. Hello, Felice. How are you, Ms. Smith?
Hi, Norma. How are you?
I'm good.
Hi, Felice.
Yeah.
Was that Chip?
Yeah, hey, Chip here. Just want to say hello. How are you?
Hey, how are you?
Fine, thanks.
Good.
Oh, okay. Darrin is here. Okay, well, we can get started. It is 12:01, and I will call the meeting of the District of Columbia Board of Ethics and Government Accountability to order. I'm Norma Hutcheson, the BEGA Chairperson. And due to COVID-19, this meeting is being held virtually via WebEx. Joining me for this meeting today are board members Charles Nottingham, Melissa Tucker, Felice Smith, and Darrin Sobin. And together we constitute a quorum for the meeting. Since it was first posted, there have not been any changes to the meeting agenda. So I'd like a motion to adopt the agenda, please.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Okay, any questions, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of adopting the agenda, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any nays? Okay. The July 1st, 2021 minutes were provided in draft. And if we could take a minute to review those, and if there are no questions about that, we'll need a motion to approve the minutes from July. Okay. Mr. Sobin says he is muted and he needs to be unmuted.
Kayvon, can you move Darrin from the attendee box to the panelist list?
Is there a motion to adopt the July meeting minutes?
Yes, I'll offer the motion to adopt the July meeting minutes.
Is there a second?
Second that motion.
Okay, was that Ms. Tucker? I wasn't sure who that was that did the second.
It was Melissa.
Okay.
Yes, it was me.
Okay, so just wanted to be sure. All in favor of adopting the minutes from the July meeting, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any nays?
I'm going to abstain because I wasn't at the last meeting.
Okay, that was Mr. Sobin. Okay. All right, so the next item on the agenda is the Office of Open Government report. So we'll hear from Director Niquelle Allen, who will provide a report on behalf of the office. And she's appearing via WebEx.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chairperson Hutcheson and members of the board. I am Niquelle Allen, Director of Open Government. I'm pleased to present this report on the activities of the Office of Open Government. Since the last board meeting, the Office of Open Government, which I'll refer to as the OOG, has continued to fulfill its mission of ensuring that all persons receive full and complete information regarding the affairs of the district government and the actions of those who represent them. I'll start with Open Meetings Act and Freedom of Information Act advice rendered by the office. Advisory opinion. On June 21st, 2021, I issued a resolution of complaint, OOG number 005-2021, and resolution of complaint OOG-006-2021, ROC number OOG-005, dismissed an Open Meetings Act complaint filed against an ANC chairperson. As the board knows, DC Official Code 2-5743F excludes advisory neighborhood commissioners from the definition of public bodies and the OMA statutory meeting requirements. The complainant was informed that the Advisory Neighborhood Councils Act of 1975 governs ANC meetings and to advise the Office of Advisory Neighborhood Commissions of the issue. The next matter dismissed the OMA complaint filed against the Board of Professional Counseling regarding the scheduling of a professional license matter for the Board of Professional Counseling to consider. The Board of Professional Counseling is a public body that is subject to the OMA. However, the Open Meetings Act does not regulate the scheduling of such matters. Copies of these advisory opinions are in the Dropbox for your review. Formal FOIA advice. The rules modifying FOIA requests have expired due to the reopening of the District of Columbia agencies and Mayor's Order 2021-0-96, ending of the public health emergency. BEGA's offices are remaining closed to the public due to COVID-19, and BEGA staff continues to be in a full telework posture. So if a FOIA request to BEGA requires BEGA FOIA officer or BEGA staff to search for records in BEGA's physical offices, which are closed, those FOIA requests will not be due until 45 days after BEGA's offices reopen. All other FOIA requests that BEGA received are processed under normal FOIA rules. FOIA requesters are given a letter detailing these changes to the FOIA requirements and the impact of those changes on processing of FOIA requests. OOG is planning to issue directives regarding the mayor's ending of the public health emergency and its effects on compliance with the Open Meetings Act and with FOIA. The information will be posted to our website and sent to the appropriate agency officials very soon. Informal FOIA and Open Meetings Act advice. Since the last board meeting, OOG responded informally via email or telephone to requests for assistance as follows. The office responded to 22 requests for Open Meetings Act advice. The office responded to 16 requests for FOIA advice, and the office responded to 24 requests for technical assistance with its website, open-dc.gov. First, the next matter is training and outreach, and the first one is Mayor Bowser's cabinet meeting. Mayor Bowser had a full cabinet meeting on July 9th, 2021, which I attended, and it was the mayor's first in-person cabinet meeting since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. It was held at the Washington Convention Center. The meeting was held in advance of the mayor welcoming employees back to the office for in-person service on July 12th, 2021. DC employees who are working under the executive office of the mayor are now working in office with a maximum telework schedule, which is 2 days a week telework and 3 days in office. At the meeting, there was extensive discussion of the mayor's return to work plan. So even though, as I mentioned earlier, employees have returned to work, our BEGA employees have not returned to the workplace. OOG will continue to provide the employees who are in office the FOIA and OMA training remotely. The next item is the Tipped Workers Coordinating Council Open Meetings Act training. On July 15th, 2021, the Office of Open Government and the Office of Government Ethics conducted a joint Open Meetings Act and ethics training for the Tipped Workers Coordinating Council. Attorney DeBerry presented the Open Meetings Act portion of the training, and OGE's General Counsel Rashi Raj presented the ethics portion of the training. The training was well received by the public body, and Chief Counsel Barton and attorneys Orji and Weil attended the training. A live online privacy training by the International Association of Privacy Professionals, IAPP, on July 12th, 14th, 19th, and 21. Attorney DeBerry attended IAPP's professional development course on privacy and data protection. The course provided an in-depth view of critical privacy laws and concepts relevant to U.S. organizations. AIM's FOIA Express training. On July 13th and 14th, attorneys Orji and Weil attended training on the use of FOIA Express. FOIA Express is an application used by the district government public bodies to receive, manage, and respond to FOIA requests. OOG's Orgy and Weil found the program engaging as it included several realistic simulations and gave them informative looks at practical uses of the FOIA Express platform. LexisNexis training on July 15th and 22nd. Attorney Orgy attended the first and second part sessions of a three-part legal research training hosted by LexisNexis. I don't know why I can't say that this afternoon rather. The training is designed to demonstrate effective utilization of the platform when conducting legal research. The next item is digging into DC Schools Open Records Training. On July 20th, 2021, the OOG and the DC Open Government Coalition co-hosted a training on how to obtain information from the District of Columbia school system and the DC Public Charter School Board. I was a panelist and offered advice on FOIA. This was the first in a series of free open government trainings that will continue through the fall. The focus of future trainings will include how to locate and obtain information from a criminal justice, social services, and government state agencies. OOG's legal staff also attended the training. Office of Unified Communications, or OUC FOIA training on July 23rd, 2021, Chief Counsel Barton conducted a FOIA training for the Office of Unified Communications. This was OOG's basic FOIA training course, and the course was well received. 2020 Supreme Court of the United States. On July 23rd, Attorney Weil attended a seminar on the review of the 2020 term for the Supreme Court of the United States. The seminar was conducted through the George Mason University School of Law. The panelists summarized impactful rulings by the court in 2020. Brownback seminar on July 26th, I, along with Chief Counsel Barton, participated in the OGE's monthly Brownback Ethics Seminar. Chief Counsel Barton facilitated an interactive presentation of the Open Meetings Act best practices. The event was well attended, and we responded to several insightful questions regarding the Open Meetings Act. Attorney DeBerry also attended the seminar. The next item is the Open Govist biannual newsletter. OOG released its biannual newsletter, the Open Govist, that reports on the Office of Open Government's activities and newsworthy events in the area of open government. The July 26, 2021 newsletter discusses the expiration of the DC FOIA tolling legislation, an advisory opinion addressing the District of Columbia Public Schools compliance with the proactive disclosure provisions of DC FOIA, the Terrace-Plavick-Millen lawsuit, which brought forth a DC FOIA case against the district to turn over budget documents, which I will discuss later in my report, the resolution of several Open Meetings Act complaints, OMA and FOIA training for public charter school boards of trustees and advisory neighborhood commissioners. The Open Govist also discusses how Chief Judge Beryl Howell's order and federal FOIA were used to obtain video evidence and documents of the January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol. The biannual newsletter welcomes OOG's 2 new attorneys and discusses a number of open government-related trainings, forums, and events presented or attended by the OOG legal staff. The July 26th Open Government newsletter was released on that date, along with back issues, which are the January 2019, February 2020, July 2020, and December 2020 issues. All of those issues have been posted to OOG's website and are in Dropbox for your review. The next items are the litigation and legislative updates. First is Open Meetings Act enforcement, DC Public Charter School Board conciliation meeting. On July 9th, 2021, pursuant to 3 DCMR Section 10404, I facilitated a conciliation meeting to resolve an Open Meetings Act complaint number OOG 2021-001-M. The complaint was filed on April 5th, 2021 against the DC Public Charter School Board. The complainant voiced his concerns directly to the DC Public Charter School Board representative. The parties were able to arrive at an acceptable resolution of the complaint. Chief Counsel Barton, Trial Attorney Orgy, and Attorney DeBerry attended the meeting. Litigation. OOG is monitoring FOIA-related cases in D.C. Superior Court and the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit. The agency is not a party to any of these lawsuits. I am providing this information for the board's awareness of litigation that may impact the operation and interpretation of D.C. FOIA law. The first item is the TPM lawsuit regarding preliminary budget requests. And I've gone over this case several times, and it has really come to a head this month. So on July 13th, TPM sued the district under DC FOIA, alleging that the district failed to produce and post online various budget-related documents related to the Office of the State Superintendent of Education and District of Columbia Public Schools. TPM and the district cross-moved for subject summary judgment. The status hearing was scheduled for July 23rd, but Judge Patrick vacated that hearing and ruled in TPM's favor. Judge Patrick found and reasoned that the requested budget-related documents fell within the scope of those required to be affirmatively published, that the Executive Office of the Mayor and OSSI's responses to TPM were inadequate and absent, that TPM has standing to sue because its inability to exercise its right to inspect a public record. It is itself a justifiable injury. The district was compelled to obey express disclosure provisions within DC FOIA. The court disagreed with the district's argument that a requirement to comply with other law means law outside of DC FOIA. Separation of power applies when powers are reserved for one branch. Here, the power of the budget is inherently shared between the two branches. And six, the court was not persuaded to recognize an executive communication privilege, nor would it even apply because, e.g., the budget requests were formulated after budget deliberations and are submitted to the Office of Planning and Budget, not the mayor and her immediate staff advisors. Accordingly, the court ordered the district must produce the budget-related documents to TPM and publish them on its website. The district was required to comply with this order on or before August 5th, 2021. However, on August 3rd, 2021, the district submitted defendant's partial consent motion for administrative stay and stay of execution of judgment pending appeal. The district moved to stay the execution of this July 23rd order entered in this case, requiring the district to reduce to the plaintiff and publish online the preliminary budget documents. The district moved for an administrative stay until 7 days after the court decides the stay motion to allow the district to request a stay from DC Court of Appeals if necessary. The district, of course, is considering an appeal because it claims the court order improperly limits the applicability of DC FOIA's deliberative process privilege to the documents requested, misapplies the separation of powers law, and misunderstands the scope of the executive communication privilege. The district argued that without a stay, the district will necessarily face irreparable harm because once it produces and publishes the documents, it can no longer invoke any privilege to protect the documents from disclosure. And the district further stated the public interest supports the protection of the deliberative government communications, and the plaintiff will face no harm from the stay pending appeal. On August 4th, 2021, TPM responded. TPM consented to a stay of the district's injunctive obligations under the July 21st order, since the injunctive obligations flow directly from the legal issues that will be addressed by the Court of Appeals if the district appeals. However, TPM did not fully consent to the district's request because the district has not yet decided if it will appeal, and there is no need for the stay if the district does not appeal. Accordingly, TPM explained to the district that it would not consent to its stay under the requested conditions, that if the district did not appeal, the requested stay would terminate 7 days after the time for noticing an appeal has run. TPM requested that if the district consents to a stay, the order must include a provision terminating the stay if the district does not appeal. We will continue to monitor this matter and update the board as to the lawsuits progress on appeal. if the district indeed appeals.
Director,
Yes, sir.
did we take any position in this case?
We have not taken a position in the case. We have just been monitoring the case.
Gotcha. Thank you.
You're welcome. So the next matter is the ACL lawsuit regarding stop and frisk. On February 16, 2021, the American Civil Liberties Union of the District of Columbia sued the district seeking records concerning stop and frisk by MPD, the Metropolitan Police Department. A status hearing was scheduled for July 23rd, but the court granted a stay of litigation by consent of both parties. The parties' July 13th, 2021 consent motion indicated that they are continuing settlement negotiations with respect to attorney fees, the only remaining issue of their negotiation. A new status hearing is set for October 1st, 2021. The next matter is Reporters Committee for the Freedom of the Press and Associated Press lawsuit regarding the foreseeable harm analysis. On July 2nd, 2021, two media plaintiffs sued the Federal Bureau of Investigation and the United States Department of Justice over the government's withholding under the federal deliberative process exemption of certain public records. The underlying FOIA requests were broad and concerned the FBI's use of fake news articles and news websites to lure suspects into clicking on spurious links and thereby downloading a surveillance software revealing their locations to investigators. The media plaintiff appellant's argument turned on the foreseeable harm subclause that was added to federal FOIA in 2016. The new language provides that for agencies subject to federal FOIA, the mere fact that the record technically falls within exception is not sufficient ground to withhold records from the requester. The language provides that an agency shall withhold information under federal FOIA only if the agency reasonably foresees that disclosure would harm an interest protected by an exemption. Note that the foreseeable harm rule does not have a counterpart in DC FOIA. Nevertheless, this case has the potential for persuasive, though not binding, interpretive value in the future for the District of Columbia. After the district court granted summary judgment in favor of the government parties, the media organization appealed. In its opinion, a three-judge panel of the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit Court affirmed in part, reversed in part, and dismissed in part. The panel agreed with the FBI that certain internal deliberative documents concern the FBI's response to media and legislative pressure to change undercover tactics were properly withheld under Federal Exemption 5, but with respect to other requested documents also withheld under Federal Exemption 5, the FBI's factual accuracy comments to the Inspector General's draft report, drafts of the PowerPoint slides allegedly concerning undercover operations, portions of an Inspector General cover memo, and emails among FBI personnel discussing policy changes in the approval process of undercover investigations. The panel was unpersuaded by the FBI's assertions of harm. The opinion by Judge Millett described in FBI's declarations as scanty and wholly generalized and conclusory, just mouthed general rationale for the deliberative process privilege itself. The Reporters Committee for Freedom of the Press regards the decision as a powerful articulation of what the foreseeable harm standard requires by affirming that boilerplate, unparticularized, and hypothesized assertions of harm are insufficient. The decision puts to bed the argument repeatedly made by the Justice Department that foreseeable harm provision does not significantly alter an agency's obligations under FOIA. The OOG will continue to monitor these matters. The last items in my report today are administrative matters. First are return to the workforce. As an independent agency, BEGA has elected to remain in full telework status due to the spread of the Delta variant and coronavirus reinfections among vaccinated persons. BEGA remains in full situational telework status until further notice and will continue to offer its services remotely. BEGA may provide in-person services or may work in the office with the permission of either director. We are currently considering future plans for for employees to return to the Berry building as the pandemic eases, hopefully sometime in fiscal year 22 or calendar year 2022. On July 26, 2021, OOG and OGE held a joint staff meeting to address BEGA's return to the workplace. BEGA's leadership heard from BEGA staff concerning their concerns about returning to the workplace, and we will address those concerns in any plan to move from full telework status to in-person office work. The next item is the BEGA hearing room. On July 30th, 2021, I met with the AV contractor regarding the equipment in the BEGA hearing room to ensure that it's operable, since a public body inquired about using the facility to hold a hearing. I'll just, on a side note, most public bodies are having remote meetings, but since someone inquired, we just wanted to make sure things were in working order. Unfortunately, the AV system is currently inoperable because the controller is inoperable. The equipment that is essentially the brains of the hearing room is at an end of life cycle and must be replaced. The cost of that equipment and labor are fortunately within our FY21 budget, and so we'll be able to complete this minor upgrade prior to the end of the fiscal year. I've also met with Octo, and we'll be able to have the video teleconferencing unit that we purchased in FY21 installed and integrated as a part of this process. And you may recall that we put our upgrade to the hearing room on hold last fiscal year because of the pandemic. And the next item is BEGA's new office space. Acting Director Cooks and I met with the Department of General Services on August 3rd regarding a move to a new facility to meet our space needs. BEGA will remain in its current space for the next 12 to 15 months while DGS searches for a suitable space for the agency and builds the space to meet the agency's needs. The executive has indicated that upon the conclusion of the search and build out, BEGA will be provided with the funds it requires to complete its relocation in the FY23 budget. BEGA will consider a teleworking arrangement for staff while DGS completes this process because our current space, as you know, is insufficient for our current level of staff. Acting Director Cooks will also provide further details on the DGS meeting and facilities search in her report. The last item is the FY22 budget enhancement. The DC Council has indicated that we'll provide BEGA with its budget enhancement regarding the Office of Open Government Operations. Those enhancements include funding for a paralegal specialist and training portal for parliamentary procedure training. So we're very happy with those developments. This concludes the Office of Open Government's August 5th, 2021 report. I'm happy to receive any questions and thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Director Allen. Are there any questions for Director Allen?
Madam Chair, this is Chip Nottingham here. Not really a question, maybe just a placeholder for maybe a future meeting. We can discuss more sort of the return to the workplace plans. Like there's a lot of mixed messaging out there. I've heard the mayor say that she's encouraging people to go back to work, but obviously there's a mask mandate indoors. But it just would be helpful maybe if for the board members at some point to be able to hear a little bit what the thinking is as we go down the road. I just kind of wouldn't want BEGA to be the last agency to return to work. I feel like if we were to be the last, it might not reflect well with the council, et cetera. But clearly we're in a pandemic, it's a serious situation. I'm not saying we should be back in now, but just kind of from a board member's perspective, I haven't really heard much about what it would take to get back. Is it a space issue? Is it a pandemic issue? Is it guidance from the mayor? I'm just trying at some point, not today necessarily, but if maybe at the next meeting, we just have a little bit of a briefing or something about kind of what metrics we would want to hit or what we're looking for to be able to return, at least in part, to be able to say the agency is open. We are open, obviously, but
Right.
yeah, that's all. Just it doesn't have to. We won't do this today, but I just wanted to flag that issue.
And we're happy to provide further information. One of the major reasons is space. It is good that we are growing and adding employees, but we have not been able to add space. So that is a concern. So we are looking at creative solutions if and when we come back, such as sharing space and hoteling. Those are the types of things that we'd have to look at. So, as an agency, we'd have to determine, what that will look like, and the combinations of telework and those types of things. But I would say the major consideration has been just our office space is not sufficient with the number of bodies that we now have. I mean, we've grown during the pandemic, so we just added more people. And that was going to be an issue with or without the pandemic, but with the pandemic becomes a health issue. And the executive is aware of our issue, and we've communicated with them about that. So they are in understanding, so that's been one of the major issues between us and the executive actually when it comes to our new office space. And in our discussions with DGS, it has been kind of their understanding that we would need to keep our telework posture because they haven't been able to find this new location. So the number of new persons, kind of is significant in planning from a public health perspective, just as well as a facilities perspective. And we're happy to provide like a greater briefing on that issue. And that's something Director Cooks and I can do together at the next meeting. We're happy to do that.
Thanks. And maybe when we do that conversation, we can talk about different scenarios. Possibly, I know some businesses and some agencies are doing partial return, where some workers return, some workers return, a couple days a week, rotate. So it may be a long time. I mean, obviously, I don't want to get into a deep dive on the public health details, but it could be years before we're a COVID-free society. And so it might be a long time before we have the space at BEGA to comfortably situate all employees at the same time on the same day. But that's not the same thing as being completely closed. You know what I mean?
Right.
So we can
Right.
talk about different scenarios.
And when we say closed, like we're closed to the public, we're not having public come into the office right now. And we do have, again, as I mentioned, we do have staff can come in the office if they wish to work in the office, they're able to. And we do have 2 staff members right now who are in the office regularly. And Director Cooks and I are in the office pretty regular. I wouldn't say we keep frequent hours, but we're in there a couple of days a week. So we have a presence in the office.
Thanks. Well, that's helpful. I wasn't even aware of that. So that's good to know. Thanks. I appreciate it. I didn't mean to drag this out, but maybe we can have a
it's important. It's important that we let people know. It's not that it's completely vacant, but we want to make sure everyone's safe. I mean, that's our first priority.
Absolutely.
Okay. Mr.
I got a
Sobin?
question. Thank
Yeah,
you, Chair. No question, but I wanted to commend you guys and offer one suggestion. First, for the commendation, this is an extraordinary amount of work the Office of Open Government has done. And I've noticed it just in this 1 month. And it seems to be picking up even more each month. So nice job to you guys and the staff. You're out there, you're doing a lot of things, you're monitoring all the important things, and you're advising us about these things so we're in the know. And my one suggestion is that on the 2 dismissal letters, for future dismissal letters, because I'm kind of dealing with this right now on the DC bar side, it may help to actually lay out, because you say you don't have jurisdiction, and that's why you're dismissing, but it may be worthwhile just to lay out what the jurisdiction is and then why you don't have it. It's that extra little informative information that the general public will appreciate and not call you up and bother you about because it wasn't explained in the letter. So that's just my one suggestion. But other than that, the writing is good, error-free, and really, I think, up to snuff. So good job, folks.
Thank you. Much appreciated.
Thank you. Any other questions? If not, thank you, Ms. Allen. And we'll go next to Director Cooks with the OGE report.
Good afternoon, Chairperson Hutcheson and members of the board. I'm Ashley Cooks, the Acting Director of Government Ethics. I'm pleased to present the report on the activities of the Office of Government Ethics. First, update on the status of OGE operations. The information reported today regarding OGE's cases will not reflect any status changes that may occur as a result of actions taken by the board during today's meeting. Open investigations by status. We have 53 open investigations. Open undocketed matters, we have 13. Pending state investigations by status. We have 28 closed pending collection matters, 1 closed pending DC Superior Court case, 4 matters that are stayed for OAG False Claims Act cases, 9 matters that are stayed due to an OIG investigation, 1 matter stayed for U.S. District Court case, for a total of 43 stayed or pending or stayed investigations. For regulatory matters, we have 24 closed pending collection regulatory matters. The number of open preliminary and formal investigations includes 8 new matters open since the last board meeting. The investigative team resolved 12 preliminary investigations since the last board meeting. Training and outreach. First, I'll start with professional development training attended by staff. During the month of July, OGE staff attended a CMTS user refresher training, and OGE attorneys completed a LexisNexis update training. Investigator Bradley attended Zoom practices for small businesses, which allow participants to get familiar with Zoom functionality and its available resources. The course covered how to schedule meetings, record, set up host functions, manage participants, invite attendees, and it explored the toolbar so that participants could familiarize themselves with features such as the mute, chat, and share screen buttons. Investigator Bradley also completed unpacking bias training, which was offered by DCHR via WebEx. The training was designed to help participants examine the current components of personal bias, stereotypes, and racial bias, and its impact within the workplace and communities. The training discussed bias and described it as prejudice, partiality, partisanship, favoritism, and unfairness, and provided for an open discussion and feedback amongst the attendees. The overall objective was to intentionally work on the culture of the workplace in order to create a space for all to perform at a level that meets and exceeds expectations. Auditor Tajuba completed the following trainings: communicating with confidence, which focused on how to communicate with staff and supervisors with confidence, and the effects of verbal and nonverbal communication. Forging ahead in perseverance and resilience, which provided information on dealing with waves of changes in the workplace. Rapport building customer service, which provided information on how to create good relationships with customers, such as trust, friendship, and affinity. Assessing and managing files, which focus on what types of files could be stored and how to access and store them in a way that facilitates their use. Effectively, the course focused on the way we could structure files to ensure we access them properly when needed. Becoming a great listener, which provided information on how not listening would greatly affect the way we communicate with each other at work. It also focused on how the effect on not listening is twofold and damages morale of employees and wastes resources. Next is trainings that were conducted by staff. Since the last board meeting, OGE's attorneys conducted 4 total ethics trainings, which included 2 general ethics trainings, 1 Ethics and Open Meetings Act training for the TIP Workers Council, and an Ethics Counselor virtual brown bag discussion. The Ethics Counselor virtual brown bag was held on Monday, July 26th, and was well attended. OOG Director Allen and Chief Counsel Johnny Walton presented information on best practices for complying with the Open Meetings Act. Ethics counselors were extremely engaged in the discussion, and we received positive feedback. Ethics counselors expressed interest in OOG providing a FOIA presentation, which we plan to coordinate soon. 64 employees completed our online ethics training via PeopleSoft. Our annual Ethics Week is scheduled to take place on October 18th to the 22nd of this year. We're in the process of scheduling presentations that will address ethics concerns in the virtual world, maintaining an ethical culture, ethics pitfalls, and health and wellness. A finalized schedule will be presented at the next board meeting. Learning Management System. OGE has identified a vendor to create and host its Ethics Learning Management System, also known as an LMS. The LMS will assist BEGA with training the district's 34,000 plus employees and public officials by providing remote on-demand ethics trainings that are specifically tailored to the district's code of conduct. It will be the central online location for OGE's ethics training resources and materials, and will provide data analytics, course completion, and tracking information. OGE is working with the Office of Contracting and Procurement to purchase the LMS this fiscal year. Miss Ethics videos. We are in the process of creating 2 new Miss Ethics videos with Pendragon Productions. Pendragon created the original Miss Ethics video and the subsequent Ask Miss Ethics videos. These 2 videos will focus on financial disclosure nuances, how and when to report an ethics violation, and ethical conduct in a virtual world. We plan to release the videos this fiscal year or early fiscal year 2022.
I think that was our theatrical debut, Director.
It was.
I've been excised from it, though.
All right, advisory opinions and advice. As far as informal advice, we provided 47 we answered 47 informal advice requests, which is 7 less than the 54 reported at the July meeting. This number does not include responses that we have provided to questions regarding lobbyists and FDS e-filing systems. OGE has not issued any advisory opinions since the last meeting, but we plan to issue an advisory opinion on seeking and negotiating for employment next month. Next is legislative updates. On July 8, 2021, Councilmember Allen introduced the Pro Bono Legal Representation Clarification Amendment Act of 2021 as an amendment to Section 223 of the Ethics Act, which would add a new subsection that would allow employees to represent persons of limited income in affiliation with a nonprofit organization before district courts and federal courts and district and federal agencies. The Committee on the Judiciary and Public Safety will hold a public hearing on the bill on October 27th. I plan to submit written testimony in support of the bill. A copy of the most recent bill was placed in the Dropbox for your review. OGE administrative matters. First is OGE staffing. As stated at the last board meeting, the senior attorney advisor vacancy has been filled by Ms. Lynn Tran, who will start on August 23rd. We are in the process of posting vacancy announcements for an attorney advisor and administrative officer. Next is reporting. As discussed at the last board meeting, OGE has published a finalized quarterly complaint report for quarter 2 of FY 2021. We plan to publish quarterly complaint reports for quarter 1 and 3 this month. Budget. The agency's budget hearing was held on June 16, 2021, at which Chairperson Hutcheson, Director Allen, and I testified. Councilmember Nadeau included all of BEGA's budget enhancement requests, except the request for a new office space in the Human Services Committee budget report. On this past Tuesday, the council conducted its last vote on the Local Budget Act, which approved BEGA's budget allocations without any changes. So we're very happy about that. Relocation and new office space. The city administrator has approved for the Department of General Services to issue a request for space on BEGA's behalf. The request for space is a solicitation for applications from commercial landlords who have vacant office space that meets our needs. On this past Tuesday, Director Allen and I met with DGS's Portfolio Management Division to assess our current office space and to discuss expectations for future office space. Next is financial disclosure statement. In July 2021, the financial disclosure statement ended and enforcement activities began. While the official end of the filing period was June 15th, many filers sought extensions to file their calendar year 2021 financial disclosure statements through the month of July. As of July 28th, 3,618 public filers filed using the e-filing system. For enforcement, the FDS staff has produced a list of 148 public filers who did not meet the filing deadline or who have not filed despite receiving notices and reminders to file. A garnishment memo containing the names of those filers has been submitted to the Office of Pay and Retirement for payroll deduction, for payroll fine deduction. In accordance with its reporting obligation, OGE has produced 3 lists for the DC Register: a filers list, late and not filed list, and an extension list. These lists have been uploaded to the DC Register and will be published on August 6, 2021. The late and not filed list does not include those who sought help via support tickets or directly contacted the FDS team for assistance.
Director, can I ask a question about there seems to be a lot of folks on the garnishment list, and these are all folks that didn't ask for either a waiver of the fine or a waiver of the filing requirement, correct?
Correct.
And so if history tells us anything, once they realize this is getting serious because they just lost $300, I think we can expect a huge influx of waiver requests. Would you agree?
Well, those people who are on the list received 3 notices, 3 reminders, including one that was sent even the day before the filing deadline, the extended deadline of July 15th. So I don't anticipate that we'll receive that many waivers because, again, these people received 3 notices even after the original filing period. We received several waivers last calendar year from those confidential filers. A lot of those were the confidential filers, not necessarily the public filers. But if we do receive the waiver requests, we'll address them accordingly. But yeah,
I just wanted to chime in. I just wanted to say we've been receiving a lot of fine waiver requests from 2020, and I know that the board has been very generous in granting those due to the pandemic. I'd say that any requests that we receive for 2021 are a little bit different. We've been in the pandemic for quite a while. We've returned to work. We on our end have been doing a lot of outreach. So I'd expect for any 2021 requests, we're going to probably start opposing them. We had a general internal policy of just not opposing the 2021s that we've been doing. But we're really going to be, taking people to task to provide us with explanations. And while we're on our side, we're going to be considering those explanations and submitting oppositions where we don't think they meet muster. And so there is a potential for people to submit the waivers because, not having a valid explanation doesn't stop people from asking. So
Right.
if we do get them, as Director Cook says, we'll address them accordingly, but you might expect opposition from us for the 2021 one.
And that's fine. That's fine. I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense. But just get ready because I think they're coming. Once they get that notice about the $300 out of their paycheck, that's when it gets real for them.
Of course. Okay, thank you, Asia. Speaking of confidential filers, the FDS staff continue to review financial disclosure statement review reports from the agencies to identify confidential filers for enforcement activities. Since the deadline, the FDS team received the names of approximately 30 filers who were not included on their agency's initial list received in March. Of note, one agency did not respond to BEGA's request until June 24th, and the filers were notified on June 25th. However, the agency's filers all filed within the allotted time. The FDS team continues to work with filers and ethics counselors to achieve compliance. And one thing that I want to note is that we have we've only submitted a public list to OPRS. We've taken additional time to review the agency's reports as far as the confidential filers so that we don't get as many waiver requests from confidential filers as we did last year. So we're taking additional time, additional steps to review those reports to make sure that no confidential filer is inadvertently placed onto our fine list. Lastly, the FDS team met with the Office of the Chief Technology Officer, OCTO, on July 22nd to discuss fixes and upgrades to the e-filing system. The FDS team produced a list of items that were supposed to be originally included in the system, as well as items that would make reporting and maintenance easier. We are awaiting OCTO's response. And the last item is lobbyist registration and activity reporting. Calendar year 2021 second quarter lobbyist activity reports were due July 15th. A reminder notice was sent on June 28, 2021 to lobbyists and clients. As of July 28, BEGA received 458 activity reports and 19 registrations, which includes 11 new, 5 renewals, and 3 terminations. No major issues were noted, but 13 support tickets were forwarded to OCTO for review. We're in the process of sending out lobbyist registration and activity report fine letters totaling $14,700.
That seems a little bit high. Is that high? $14,000 in fines?
It is, I wouldn't say it's high. It's based on folks who failed to register. And the thing is that it's some of the lobbyists who have several clients. So that's what makes the number $14,000.
I see. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you. This concludes the Office of Government Ethics July 5th, 2021 report.
Thank you. Are there any questions from Ms. Cooks? Thank you very much, Acting Director Cooks. The next item
Can I
on our,
ask a quick
Yeah.
question? Chairperson?
yes, go right ahead.
Thank you. Director Cooks, you mentioned that there are 13 open undocketed matters. A little unusual. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yes. So what we have reported was previous months, it's been a little bit lower as far as our undocketed matters. It's been like 4 or 3. But when I went into the CMTS system and I ran a report for our complaints only, the number that it produced was 13, which includes matters that have recently come in like this week, and also matters that we have to issue declination letters for, those matters that will not turn into preliminary investigations. So the reason the number is so high is because we've gotten an influx of new matters that need to be resolved, as well as some old matters that we haven't produced declination letters for that will not turn into preliminary investigations. But I am anticipating that the investigative teams will issue those letters very soon.
Thank you for your explaining.
Madam Chair, I think you're muted.
Hey, thank you. Sorry. There are no other questions. Our next item on the agenda is public comments. And I understand that the public was invited to submit comments by 11 a.m. today. My understanding is that as of 11:01 today, there was one item and it will be published with this month's meeting minutes. The next item on the agenda is the executive session or closed session. And the next item is to discuss ongoing confidential investigations pursuant to DC Official Code, Section 2-575B14, to consult with an attorney to obtain legal advice to preserve the attorney-client privilege between an attorney and a public body pursuant to DC Official Code, Section 5-575B4A, to discuss personnel matters, including the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, performance evaluation, compensation, discipline, demotion, removal, or resignation of government appointees, employees, or officials pursuant to DC Official Code Section 2-575B10, to deliberate on a decision in which the Ethics Board will exercise quasi-judicial functions pursuant to DC Official Code Section 2-575B13, and to discuss contract negotiation strategies pursuant to DC Official Code Section 2-575B2. May I have a motion to enter executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and second that we enter into executive session. Everyone in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Nays, right? Okay, board members, please log out of this session and we'll log into the executive session on WebEx. When the executive session is over, we'll return to this session and report out any matters decided and finish any other business and adjourn the meeting. Let's log out. Okay, the time is now, hello again. The time is now 1:17 p.m. and we are back on the record. We have no matters to report out. So this concludes the meeting of the DC Board of Government Accountability, Ethics and Government Accountability. The next meeting will be held remotely via WebEx on September 2nd, 2021 at 12 noon. Thank you, everyone. Have a good weekend.
Thank you. Take care, everybody.
Have a good weekend, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye. Take care.
Bye-bye.